I want you guys to welcome somebody who's very close to me. God has given her a word specifically for you. As a matter of fact, she has been praying for over a month for each of you. And she's been praying that God would give her a word for you. And so would you guys welcome somebody very close to me? Give her a big J12 welcome. Welcome my daughter, Rachel Pellet.
Now that you've all met my dad, you know that he's a pastor, and he's been a pastor for a long time, so I've grown up as a pastor's kid. But I face the same challenges as everyone else. The challenge, I face courage. Courage to stand up for myself, the courage to stand up for others, courage to do the right thing, and most importantly, the courage to do what God says when He says it. One of the times when I needed courage was when I was at a kids camp, which I'm sure most of you go to, and I felt like I should go pray for a girl, but I had no idea who this girl was. I had never met her in my life. So I was nervous. I started to shake, and I started to get knots in my stomach, and my whole body went stiff, and I got really hot, and I felt like my face was on fire. I was sure my face was on fire. And I felt like every eye in the camp was looking at me. And I didn't know what to say. What is she going to think of me? What if I puked on her right when I got up to her? What if, I felt like I was tied to my chair. I was so scared. And I felt like I was going to pee my pants. And I was sure that would be even more embarrassing. So I squeezed my legs together, and I pushed the thought to the back of my head and ignored it. But after that evening, I felt an unsettled feeling inside. I felt the nervousness was completely gone, but it was replaced with disappointment and frustration with myself. Have you guys ever felt like that? Have you ever been worried, probably too worried about what people thought of you? Yeah. Have you ever known the right thing, but you were afraid to do it? Well, you're not alone. Because there was a young girl by the name of Esther. You can find her story in the Bible. In fact, there's a whole book in the Old Testament called Esther, which is named after her. She lived in a land called Persia, which is now Iran. She was chosen by God to save His people. It all started with King Xerxes needing a new queen. And many girls wanted to be the queen. It was like being Michelle Obama, the president's wife, right? So Esther was brought to the king with all the other women, and out of everyone, she was chosen. So she knew that God had a plan for her life. So she became queen. Later on in the story, there was an evil man by the name of Haman who hated the Jews. He was going to do anything to get rid of the Jews. But Haman's job, he was one of the people that gave advice to the king. So one day he tricked the king into signing a law which allowed the persecution of Jews. If you don't know what persecution means, it means they could beat up and even kill the Jews just because they didn't like them, right? So God told Esther, God was upset about this. So God told Esther to go to the king and convince him to change the law and protect the Jews. Esther had to have courage to step forward and talk to the king, because it wasn't going to be easy. Back then, when anyone, even the king's wife, would come to him without permission, they'd be executed. No, he's gone. Okay. And this is going to take great courage. And Esther, she was afraid, So she needed help, she needed courage, and she needed faith. And she found that help from her uncle Mordecai. In Esther 4:13 and 14. Don't think for a moment that because you are in a palace, you will escape when all the other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for just such a time as this. God used Esther's uncle Mordecai to help build Esther up. He gave her courage. He encouraged her. When he said the words, perhaps you were made queen for just such a time as this, Esther's faith grew just a little bit. So Esther prayed, and she fasted, and she got an idea. So she had a plan. She held a grand party for King Xerxes and Haman. It was a party that lasted for 2 days. And on the second night, Esther was full of faith and courage, and she told the king what Haman had done. the king was furious, and he ordered immediately for Haman to be killed. Esther had done what God had told her to do. Mordecai had built up Esther's faith, and with that faith came courage, the courage she needed, and she was able to fulfill God's plan for her life. Courage comes when we have faith in God. Last month, I was in a youth group in Arizona, and I felt God leading me to pray for someone. And those nervous feelings, everything, it came back. But this time, I decided I was going to be like Esther. So I walked over to a teenage girl, a little bit older than me, and I sat down next to her. My heart was racing and my throat went dry, and I stuttered, and I said, can I pray for you? Pray, please. She said, oh, yes, of course. So I prayed, and during the prayer, I looked up at her, and she was crying. Wow, that was a relief, because, that means that I said something right. So when I was done, I gave her a hug, and I went back to my seat. And then I felt God leading me to pray for the whole youth group. And those nervous feelings, man, they came back, but this time they were way stronger. My heart felt like it was leaping out of my chest. But I trusted the Lord, so I stood up and I walked up to the stage, and when I prayed, I was shaking and my voice was all cracky, but I did it. And God didn't let me down. After that night, I had different feelings. Not the nervousness and all that, but it was the feeling, that feeling you get when you do something right? Well, that was the feeling. My faith had grown and courage had come with it, and I was able to do the right thing, even though I was afraid. There's a very important verse to me, Isaiah 12:2. And it says, surely God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. This is my life verse. And it's saying that we can trust the Lord because he's not gonna let us down or steer us wrong But another verse that encourages me is Philippians 4:13. And it says, for I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Those verses tell me that I don't have to be afraid to step out and to do the right thing. Because God, he's going to back me up. He's going to give me the strength to do it. Every night before bed, my dad prays over my sister and I. He prays that we'll have the wisdom and the courage to do the right thing, even if it's hard.
Let's